We're saying this is to reduce the deficit, and what we're working on towards now at the moment, why we've taken 8.6 billion from our economy here, is so that we can reach, as the Troika has said, we need to get to 3%, a 3% deficit target. And that's why we've had 8.6 billion removed from the economy to this point. Now, over the next number of years, there's going to be billions more taken out, so we managed to get to that figure. Now, if Ireland comes out, and fortunately enough, we're having an opportunity to have a treaty on this austerity treaty, because Fine Gael and Labour, if they had their way, there would be no treaty whatsoever. They would have pushed this right the way through. It was only the fact that the Attorney General gave legal advice saying this was going to severely change the Irish Constitution, and on that grounds there was a constitutional referendum needed, because this was going to be enshrined in our Constitution. So for the first time in our history, we're going to have austerity enshrined in our Constitution. And what that will see happen here, it will see us reduce our deficit. They want, if we vote yes, and I hope, and Sinn Féin, as I said, will be out to the fore campaigning for a no vote, they will cut our deficit down to 0.5%, which is crazy. And to get that, it's going to see a further 6 billion being taken out of our economy from 2015 onwards. So if you have a look at what's gone before, if you have a look at what's gone on around the world, where cuts and increased taxes and increased stealth taxes and that, if austerity worked, if these cuts worked, Ireland would have been out of the recession. But it hasn't worked, and we all know that. Unemployment is continuing to rise. We see more stealth taxes being shoved down our throats. We see more cuts. We see more hurt and more pain. And yet they're saying we need to vote yes for this treaty because we need to take an extra 6 billion out of our economy. And that's insane. Another 6 billion on top of what we've had removed already. We know people are hurting, particularly in rural Ireland. People are really, really hurting. And Fintan, and I've seen it in Wicklow, and Fintan talks about the GAA clubs and that. And GAA clubs, it's a good, I suppose, gauge pole to use, because they're ingrained in every community, in every parish throughout Ireland. And it's truly representational of all fabrics of rural Ireland. And when you see GAA clubs having to amalgamate with neighbouring villages or towns to be able to put a team out to play a league match on a Sunday or whatever, there's serious problems going on. And what all of this austerity is going to see happen is more and more people emigrate. Already we've thousands, up to 2,000 young people a week leaving our shores, many of those never to come back, and the vast majority of them are the life and soul of rural Ireland. And we can't afford that. In the past we spoke about the brain drain, and that's exactly what's going to happen here. We've invested in educating these people, and they're bringing their skills and their knowledge away to aid foreign countries and the development of them, rather than investing here in this state. We have massive amounts of money at our disposal. Don't let the government parties fool you into believing we haven't a penny to our name. We still have money at our disposal. And some of that money, Sinn Féin, we put forward parliamentary questions to the Minister for Finance last year, and people would be shocked when they heard where some of the money, for example, in the National Pension Reserve Fund, money that's put away for a wet day for the Irish people. Some of that money is invested in champagne houses in the south of France, rather than invested in a sugar beet plant here in Wexford, or a creamery down in Kerry, or sheep farming in Wicklow. It's invested in champagne houses in the south of France. And that's where we're saying, you know, politics is all about choices. Choices as to whether to pay bondholders, choices as to whether to pay, you know, 3.1 billion into toxic banks on top of the billions that have been put in already, and you know, the billions more, up to 60 billion more that's going to be handed into them over the next 20 years or so. It's all about choices, and don't let anyone fool you into believing that there's no alternative. There are alternatives. This government promised us the alternatives, but they've chosen the easy path. They've chosen, you know, to follow down the exact same road as Fianna Fáil and the Green Party. And we know where that's going to end up. It's going to end up in more misery, more hurt, and more pain for people. So it's time people said enough is enough, and people are starting to do that. I've spoken at many public meetings now in Wicklow and other places, and people are coming out in large numbers, whether it's on the household charge, whether it's on septic tanks, whether it's on closures of hospital services, nursing homes. People are coming out. People are speaking out against these and saying, no, enough is enough. And as part of that, Sinn Féin have launched a national campaign, a national Sinn Féin campaign, and it's called Love Rural Ireland. And it was launched in Mayo last week. And as part of that campaign, Sinn Féin are taking this issue, the issue of rural Ireland. We're going into communities, we're going into parishes and villages, and we're speaking to people, and we're asking them, look, these are the issues that we're working on. What are the issues that concern you? You know, if you have, you know, logical alternatives, if you have proposals, if you want to feed into that, yous are the people that it's affecting, and we need to hear from yous. And as I said, we're going into every parish, every village throughout the state, not just about septic tanks, not just about the household charge, because these can't be taken in isolation. They have to be taken collectively, because this is all being done in the name of austerity. Not in our name, in austerity. And to put that in you know, layman's terms, it's about bailing out bankers, bondholders, and pouring billions of our money into toxic banks. And people, you know, we always, the Irish people, we always had the name the fighting Irish. But I think, you know, over the so-called good years, and I'm not one of these that falls for that, you know, and buys into that. There may have been good years or Celtic Tiger years for people at the top, but people, you know, ordinary people, certainly seen no tangible benefits other than, you know, the gobbledygook shoved down the airwaves at us that you've never had it as good before. Lip service, nonsense. But people, you know, the spark went out in people, you know, over those years. But people are starting to get up and fight back. And it's crucial that we do. Because next year, the year after, if it's enshrined in our constitution, austerity, for the first time in the history of the state, Ireland is going to be a very, very poor place, a very sad place, and we have to fight back. Not just Sinn Féin, we need each and every man, woman and child to stand up and say, enough is enough. So I'll leave it at that. So thanks a million.
Thanks very much, John, for a very comprehensive address. I think John covered numerous issues there. Before I throw it out to the floor, Councillor Anthony Kelly from Wexford would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Fintan. And I'm delighted to be here in Coolgreaney this evening. Just a few pointers. John has covered a lot of the issues that we were speaking here about tonight, and so he's left me with very little to say, unfortunately. But I just want to make a point of there are hundreds of thousands of rural families who installed septic tanks in their homes through the years, through the past years. And over the years, they did with the permission of county councils and in compliance with the various building regulations and EPA codes of practice. These things have all been passed by county council, and now the government are coming along and imposing a septic tank inspection. And without really much full information on the issue, we're expecting people in rural Ireland to allow these inspections to be carried out without full knowledge of what's exactly happening or what the full knowledge of what septic tank regulations are to be. It's not the price that's the key issue, it's the inspections. How do they expect an ordinary person on a small holding, if a new tank is needed, a full new tank is needed to comply? They're very vague about if they're going to fund it with grants or any kind of funding. Again, on the septic tanks, I'll just leave it there. John has spoke far beyond that. But just to remind you again, that, and to let it sink in, what John has said earlier, that this government is now going, at the end of this month, to pay over 3.1 billion of our money to foreign bank investors, to the German and French banks who invested here in this country, who loaned you the money, who loaned the young people of this country the money to purchase their homes, and now in negative equity. These are the new poor of Ireland, the young people who got pulled in to purchasing these homes. Just to put things in a kind of a nutshell with these big bondholders that are being paid off. Just this evening, as a local councillor, I'm on the front line facing, like what you are suffering in rural Ireland, the demise of things happening due to austerity. I had a young mother, family of 2 children, phoned me this evening that her electricity had been severed, cut off completely, cut off for the own of a few €100, because she could not afford to enter into negotiation or enter into paying, say, a sum of €50 per week. If she could not enter that, her electricity was gone. That just goes to show you what's happening on one side of the scale and at the top end of the scale. She's been cut off with her electricity supply board. She has 2 children to maintain. The bankers and the developers and the speculators are let go free. And the whole thing filters down to people on social welfare, people on disability benefits who are being cut to the bone and being put to the pin of their collar. And not one banker or not one developer has been jailed yet in this country. Not one. So I will leave it to that at that point. And I would urge you to consider, deeply urge you to consider, when it comes time to vote on this austerity treaty. It doesn't take an economist to recognise that austerity strangles the domestic economy. It sucks the lifeblood out of it. And that's what you will be voting for if you vote for this austerity treaty. You will be sucking, it started already with austerity, you will be sucking the lifeblood out of Ireland. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. I'd like to throw it out to the floor now. So, if anyone would like to address any particular issue or any question or make any point. Okay, it's on the back here.
My name is Dominic Cotton. I'm living in Shrew, Cranford. One of the main things that's really worrying me, and John hit it there in the spot when he mentioned about my children suffering grants in a couple of years. I'm one of those mortgages now that's being classed as a mortgage in distress. I've applied for my bank for a moratorium on my mortgage. I'm a working man for a semi-body state. The household tax is the immediate thing being pushed on many people in Wexford. And the people need leadership. We need someone to come with us and push this with us, that we're not paying this tax. Because we can't afford it. I can't hardly pay my mortgage, never mind pay more tax. And I'm one of the people who's meant to pay it. But we need leadership, and these scare tactics that the government are coming out telling us about the law and going to prison, and about me children maybe not qualifying for a VEC grant in a couple of years' time. It's terrifying for law-abiding people who've never ever been in trouble with the law to have these crazy statements being made against them. This has to be stopped. It's a measure of permanent austerity. And I'm sorry, I missed the start of the meeting. I was coming from work, I was late. But Fintan mentioned something about the schools and how, I don't know if I picked it up correctly, that TDs were asked to show their hands of who supported the cuts on schools. Well, if Sinn Féin could put forward a motion in Dáil Éireann in relation to what TDs are actually supporting the household tax and these permanent measures of austerity on Irish people, on Wexford people, then we can get a picture of these TDs and we put them on a billboard in each county. Just one billboard in the N11. This man here supports household tax in Wexford. And we let the people know then and want to vote in the next election, because we have to stand together and stop these measures. That's all I have to say. I'm very annoyed at what's going on, but that's all I have to say.